Hey guys, and welcome back to another one of my Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. videos, and on this video we're going to be discussing the trailer for the second episode of the 6th season of the series. Now next week's episode is going to be titled Window of Opportunity, and I'm going to talk about that in detail in a moment here. I'm also going to be addressing the one thing that we're going to be complaining about for the entire season. Some of us will be complaining about it for the entire season, which is basically a tie-in or the lack thereof with Avengers Endgame or Infinity War. On another note, I'm going to be highlighting theories when talking about the trailer of the second episode of the season, but however though, in order to minimize the time on this video, I'm not going to be going into details. Any details of the sort will be discussed on the video that I'm either going to be posting tomorrow or on Tuesday, which is basically going to be my theory explainer for this week. But let us though take a look at the trailer before we start breaking it down. Let's go.
Instruct all agents, we have a new target that looks exactly like Phil Coulson.
Every time we get close, they vanish. There's nowhere to know where they're going.
This is just the beginning of a magnificent journey.
Coulson?
That word, Coulson, what does that mean?
I don't know, but it rings a bell.
Alright guys, so the trailer does not seem to be in the right order of events from next week's episode. I think that before we get the scene with Mac, May, and Yo-Yo walking together and him kinda giving instructions, hey, we've got a guy who looks like Coulson and that's our new target, there's going to be the scene where May realizes that Sarge over here, you know, the new character portrayed by Clark Gregg, is basically a Coulson look-alike, and that's the scene that we get to see or get to watch like 16 seconds into the runtime of this trailer. But let us though take a moment to match this with the synopsis that we got a couple of weeks ago for this episode, the agents struggle with the truth about Coulson on an all-new episode of ABC's Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we need to expect a certain level of shock, we need to expect a certain level of struggle with the fact that Coulson is out there, someone who looks like Coulson at least, and the fact that a lot of people will not find it easy to deal with this. I mean, Yo-Yo's shock is going to be huge, Mac's shock is going to be even bigger, but the shock of the two of them combined is not going to match what May is going to be feeling. I mean, the moment that she realizes that this guy is a Coulson look-alike, that this guy might be Coulson, her Coulson, she's most definitely gonna go crazy, and that's kind of evident from what we did here on the trailer of the season. You know, Daisy telling her something around the lines of, hey, that guy in there is not the guy that you love, like he might look like him, but he's not the same guy. But however, the big question mark over here is he not? Is he not the guy that she loves? Is he not Coulson? Alright, so there's the moment on this trailer where May calls Sarge Coulson, and then there's a moment where Sarge is in his truck and he's basically sitting next to one of his mercenaries, and Jacko, the other guy, the mercenary, basically asks him, Coulson, what does that word mean? And Sarge basically responds, I don't know, but it rings a bell. Now, that brings us to multiple theories, some of which I've discussed before, some of which I'm going to discuss with variations on tomorrow's video, but nonetheless the first of these two theories is the butterfly theory, and the second one is that Sarge is the Hellhound Sarge from the comics. Alright, these are the two base theories, gonna be building up on them on tomorrow's video, gonna be discussing them in detail once again, and I'm hoping this time around people are gonna have more of an open mind to some of these theories, because right now they do seem like they're basically huge possibilities. But to that effect though, we've got one thing confirming both theories on this trailer, or the possibility that both theories could go hand in hand, and that's basically our good new friend Butterfly, and she's talking about death being the beginning of a new and magnificent journey. Now, all the talk about the new and magnificent journey kind of suits very well the idea that she is Butterfly from the comics, the mutant Butterfly. Again, gonna talk about that in detail later. But at the same time, the talk about death does suit the idea that we're talking about a hell dimension. And if we're talking about a hell dimension, then we're probably talking about Sarge, the Hellhound from the comics. But on one final note though, we do know how Sarge is going to stay one or multiple steps ahead throughout the majority of this season, you know, when it comes to Team S.H.I.E.L.D., and that's basically by teleporting out whenever they are onto him, and then teleporting back in with that big truck of his whenever he wants, wherever he wants. So Sarge is not going to be just the enemy that S.H.I.E.L.D. is trying to capture, but rather the kind of enemy that keeps disappearing into thin air the moment that S.H.I.E.L.D. gets close to him. But speaking of other expectations, on next week's episode we've got 1. Jemma has entered the coordinates of wherever she thinks Fitz is, and I believe she's gonna get to him or get close enough. Now that necessarily means that we're probably gonna be getting a lot more of the Quake action in space. That also means that we're gonna be getting a lot more space battles, at least I hope so. And that also means that we're going to have the only other 3 members of the crew of the Zephyr at this moment very angry at Simmons. But there's also 2, we're going to get either a flashback for Fitz and Enoch kind of showing us the struggle that they had to go through throughout this entire past year, or we're just going to see them struggle in present day, because the synopsis reads, while Fitz and Enoch struggle in space, Sarge and his team move forward with their mysterious mission on Earth. But that brings us to the 3rd one on my list. The window of opportunity is all about Sarge. Now, as of the end of this week's episode, Sarge and his team has got everyone confused. As of next week's episode, when they realize that Sarge pretty much looks like Coulson, the core of the S.H.I.E.L.D. team is going to get a lot more confused. The confusion is going to reach new heights. So pretty much he's going to have room and he's going to have time to advance his own mission. And I think that's basically what next week's episode is all about. We're going to get an understanding of what Sarge's mission is. But let us move on though. I'm gonna talk quickly over here about the Endgame Infinity War snap situation that everyone is kind of complaining about at the moment. Not everyone, but a lot of people. And I'm basically gonna try to summarize what I said on my previous video without going into too much detail, which is basically that Jeff Loeb did state that this entire season is kind of happening pre-snap. Now be careful going forward because there are going to be Endgame spoilers over here, but the first answer is no. He's not talking about the snaps at the end of Endgame, and he's not talking about the snap at the beginning of Endgame. Because no, Thanos did not destroy the stones by snapping his fingers because he did not mention that. Let's not assume stuff that we did not hear about in the movie. Simply put, and early on in the events of the movie, the guy just mentioned, I used the stones to destroy the stones. Nothing whatsoever about any kind of snap. So one more time, unless Jeff Loeb thinks we are idiots, he's not talking about snaps that would happen 4 years after the events of the season. I'm pretty sure he realizes we're not idiots. We do realize the difference between a 1-year and a 5-year time jump, and that we pretty much could calculate the difference and tell that the difference over here is 4 years. Now before I talk about the 3 options that I see happening over here, let me add one other piece of information. Jeff Loeb, according to the same interview, was approached by ABC a while back and they were telling him, okay, you know what, we want to move this up, like the airing of the premiere of this season by about a couple of months, and that would basically put it before the release of Endgame. Now Endgame would release on the 24th of April, and that would put the premiere of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. sometime between the beginning of March and late March. So when you think about it, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. needed to do a story, they were working on a story, they had a story, but they couldn't present anything out of Endgame, let alone the fact that they don't know all the details about Endgame. I mean seriously, not all the actors on Endgame know how Endgame ends, not all the actors on Infinity War knew how Infinity War ended, so it makes perfect sense that they wouldn't tell Marvel Television about it. So if you want to blame anyone for this complete lack of sync between both divisions, you know, the Marvel Studios division and the Marvel Television division, you can blame the movie side. But all of that doesn't matter because Jeff Loeb went to grovel during the same interview, kind of cheerlead for the movies, and did state that the movie side is the big dogs, Marvel Studios is the big dogs, and he's basically walking in their shadows. Now, I personally hate the fact that Jeff Loeb, who's presented us with so much awesomeness on TV and so much awesomeness on the pages of the comics, has got to go groveling in order to please everyone. You know, please the movie side, please the fans that are gonna rage over this, everything. But regardless though, this is all promising that there is going to be a reunion point between the Marvel Television side and the Marvel Studios side, so I wouldn't really worry about it. Now, in my opinion, that means that this could probably happen either by the end of this season or by the beginning of next season. Both are really viable options. However though, let's remember that we're not watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for the shallow reason that this is a cheerleading squad for the movies. Let's remember as well that the objective over here is to present us with a story, not to fanbase, for the Avengers. But okay though, here are the few options that I can think of off the top of my head. Number 1, we've got the option that Jeff Loeb is just saying this in order to stop the headache. Now the headache in this case would be all about people complaining, non-stop complaining, hey, we did not get our tie-in with Infinity War, hey, we did not get our tie-in with Endgame, and hey, where is our snap? Now this means that they did not address the snap because they didn't want to kind of spoil the Endgame. They didn't address the snap because they didn't want to tell us that 1 year into the future, this is not going to be resolved. That means that they're basically telling us that Endgame has got a bigger time jump. That means as well that they are spoiling that the resolution to the issue of the snapped people is not going to happen in the past, you know, either in 2018 or even before 2018, but rather in the future. post-2019, because a 1-year time jump on the series with people still snapped would actually give that indication. So yeah, I'm gonna tell you, it's pre-snap, just live with it. I don't want the headache, we don't want people to complain about the season, and we want them to focus on the story. Hence why we're giving them this news in advance. But there's option number 2, they've got no clue what was gonna go down in Endgame and they chose to play it safe, and that's a possibility. That's a possibility that I've just talked about, and that's basically a huge possibility. Kevin Feige, not without good reason, is pretty secretive about his movies, and he doesn't want to reveal much about the movies until you're in there, in the theater, watching the movie. And again, all of that is for good reason. Now, whether or not that works for Marvel Television, now that's a different story, something we could debate all day long, but nonetheless, he's doing it. Kevin Feige is doing all of this in order to protect his own brand. That means that those working on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. decided to play it safe, assumed the possibility that the snap would be resolved in 2018 or early 2019, because based on trend and the fact that we know that all the movies usually happened in the years that they were releasing, there was no good reason to think, you know, this one in specific is gonna do a 5-year time jump. But there's also option number 3, this is all set up in a new timeline. Now this might mean that the timelines will probably merge at some point. I mean, this is the whole premise of how the X-Men will most probably end up joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We've also got talk on Spider-Man Far From Home on the trailer about the multiverse. The multiverse has been addressed before on Ant-Man and the Wasp, that very lecture that we watched Bill Foster give on Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's basically about parallel timelines and the multiverse. So even the claim that the multiverse did not exist before, Endgame, that is not true. There was talk about it way before, like even before the first snap. So there you go, these are your options, just pick and choose one and stick with it. Don't complain about it much cause that's not going to change anything about this season. Try to enjoy the story, try to enjoy what they're presenting us with, rather than watching every episode and then starting to complain over and over and over and over again, and for no good reason. But that being said though, my work here is done, so let me know in the comments down below if you did like this week's episode, what you think of the trailer for next week's episode, and what you think when it comes to Coulson. Like, what are your theories when it comes to Coulson? Let me know as well if you did like this video by dropping it a much appreciated like, subscribing to this channel, and make sure while you're at it to enable notifications in order to get updated when I post new videos, publish new community posts, or start new live streams. But until the next time that you tune in for another one of my videos, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or otherwise, thank you so much for tuning into this one, and have a great day.